Hello, friends. Today I'll tell you about a dramatic thriller from 2021, based on true events, titled The Mad Women's Ball. Eugénie, along with thousands of mourners, attends the funeral of the famous writer Victor Hugo. During the ceremony, she begins to have a seizure but manages to stop herself just in time. Later, she arrives late for dinner and lies to her parents, saying she was at a friend's house. Only her brother Théophile quietly smiles, sensing she's not telling the truth. To change the subject, he brings up the upcoming debate, and Eugénie asks to attend with him. But their father sharply refuses, reminding her that a lady shouldn't be involved in such things. Before bed, Eugénie enters the bathroom and suffers another seizure. She speaks to someone unseen, but regains control when she notices her grandmother waiting at the door for their usual evening ritual. The next morning, Théophile prepares to leave for the debate and finds Eugénie already seated in his carriage. Despite their father's strict ban. But she isn't planning to attend the debate. She simply asks her brother to drop her off at the edge of town, where she can read and smoke in peace, away from their strict parents. Though reluctant, Théophile can't say no to his beloved sister. Eugénie buys a fresh pastry and settles into a modest café. Smoking a cigarette, she reads poetry and glances at a young man at the next table. He notices and starts a conversation, lending her a book about spirits. Inside, he leaves a note with his name and asks her to meet again so he can get the book back. That evening, Eugénie reads the book and tells her brother about the encounter. He rests his head on her lap, listening as she reads aloud. The next day, the family visits the estate of Théophile's fiancée. The union is very important to their father, and he's deeply displeased when Eugénie makes a sarcastic remark that offends the young woman. A conflict erupts within the family. On Christmas Eve, Eugénie and Théophile decorate the tree and climb into the attic to retrieve ornaments. Suddenly, she suffers another seizure and confesses to her brother that she now sees many spirits, not just one man as before. She asks him not to be afraid, explaining that the book from the café says there are many people like her. Later, Eugénie visits her grandmother's bedroom to brush her hair and put her to bed. But suddenly, she drops everything and begins rummaging through the wardrobe, pulling out a pendant her grandmother lost 40 years ago. When asked how she knew about it, Eugénie says her late grandfather told her. The next morning, her worried mother wakes her and says they're going to visit the neighboring estate again. She asks Eugénie to behave and not say anything inappropriate. Seeing tears in her mother's eyes, Eugénie assumes it's just concern about her behavior. She hugs her mother and prepares for the visit, unaware of what's to come. During the carriage ride, Eugénie notices her father's travel bag and realizes they're not going to the estate. Looking out the window, she doesn't recognize the road until she sees a garden filled with mentally ill women. It's too late. The carriage stops at the gates of a psychiatric hospital. Her father had brought her there after Théophile revealed her secret. The staff immediately takes her by the arms, ignoring her cries. Only Théophile struggles to stay calm, feeling faint beside the carriage. After hesitating, the father signs a document authorizing involuntary treatment. Head nurse Genevieve examines the new patient without ceremony, warning that any disobedience will result in solitary confinement. Eugénie enters the shared dormitory and is shocked by what she sees. Dozens of women, many behaving erratically, immediately try to touch her. But Louise, a fellow patient, comes to her aid. Though clearly disturbed, Louise seems more affected by the hospital itself than by her condition. Louise talks non-stop, telling Eugénie about her engagement to a young doctor named Jules and the annual masquerade ball held at the clinic for wealthy guests and officials. During lunch, she introduces Eugénie to the other patients, describing each one in detail. That night, Eugénie barely sleeps. In the morning, she watches as Genevieve leads Louise away. Their conversation suggests this is a regular occurrence. Louise is taken to a large room filled with doctors, including Jules, who smiles at her in a way only she can see. Dr. Charcot, the head physician, begins a hypnosis session. When Louise collapses, he calmly steps over her and ends the session. Louise is taken to the infirmary, where she regains consciousness. Jules visits her, dismisses the staff, and takes advantage of her naivety. He tells her he'll propose at the upcoming ball. Then he slides one hand under her dress and pleasures himself with the other. Meanwhile, Genevieve visits her elderly father for lunch and shares news from the clinic. Returning to work, she checks on Eugénie, who suddenly speaks to her as if she were her deceased sister, Blondine. Genevieve refuses to listen, calling her mad and ordering her to be silent. Dr. Charcot prescribes cold water therapy with ice, which breaks Eugénie's spirit. Théophile tracks down Genevieve and begs her to help, admitting he regrets everything. He asks her to deliver a book to Eugénie. After some thought, Genevieve agrees, but only if Eugénie helps her contact her dead sister. One night, Genevieve wakes Eugénie and brings her to her office, hoping to witness the ritual. At first, Eugénie struggles to connect. But eventually, Blondine appears and tells Genevieve that her father is having a medical emergency in the kitchen. Genevieve rushes home and finds him after a seizure. When he asks how she knew, she confesses, but he only criticizes her and accuses her of madness. After another hypnosis session, Louise loses feeling in her legs and half her body. Eugénie can't stay silent any longer. She confronts the doctors, expressing her outrage without restraint. She's declared dangerous and moved to a dark solitary cell under the supervision of the harsh nurse Jean. Food is passed through a slot in the door. The shutters open only occasionally. It seems the therapy is designed to break the patients completely. One day, Jean mocks Eugénie again. But Eugénie tells her she's been speaking with her dead mother and knows all her secrets. Jean grabs her throat and doesn't let go until Eugénie can barely breathe. Genevieve, haunted by everything, secretly tells Eugénie she'll help her escape. She just needs to hold on a little longer. Genevieve convinces Dr. Charcot that Eugénie is no longer a threat. He approves her return to the general ward, where preparations for the ball are underway. Eugénie finds Louise in a wheelchair, still cheerful and hopeful about her future marriage. That night, Eugénie reads a secret note from Genevieve, passed during her transfer. Théophile also receives a secret invitation to the ball. The evening arrives. Wealthy and powerful guests flood the clinic, eager to be entertained by the mentally ill women. Théophile arrives and quickly finds his sister, inviting her to dance. Jean watches them closely, suspecting a plot. The party begins. Some guests mock the women, others indulge their fantasies, offering strong drinks and whispering sweet lies. Amid the chaos, Genevieve sneaks Eugénie and Théophile into her office, dresses Eugénie in regular clothes, and leads them to the exit. Meanwhile, Jules takes Louise to an empty room. He tells her they're about to be married. Knowing she's paralyzed and unable to resist, he throws her onto the table and finally does what he's long fantasized about. But an elderly patient, institutionalized for 25 years after avenging her husband's betrayal, bursts in and violently attacks Jules, destroying his most vital parts. Jean notices the missing patients and rushes to find them. She spots the escapees in the hallway and raises the alarm. But Genevieve manages to get Eugénie and Théophile out the gates, where a carriage awaits. She stays behind, refusing to flee. A year later, Eugénie writes a letter to her friend, saying she's free and happy, living far away and helping others with her gift. Genevieve reads it with a smile, sitting on a bench in the clinic's garden, no longer as a nurse, but as a patient. That was the price of Eugénie's freedom.